What's my SatAttack squad? It's your boy SatAttack. When y'all see the title, man, but check out two decades old cold cases that were solved. Hey man, I was looking at the comments and shit. This shit look crazy. Hey, two cold cases for 26 minutes. Oh, this is about to be interesting as hell, bro. I hate cold cases because I hate the thought of a crime not getting solved. So the fact that these are two cold cases that were solved 2 decades old. So hey man, bro, 2K help out one super gonna dummy, man. Comment down below other videos you wanna react to, man. But we're going stupid, man. 27 minutes. So, hey, let's get ready, man. It's about to be interesting.
10-year-old Catherine Lyon and her sister, 12-year-old Sheila Lyon.
Oh shit! I seen a comment that said the two sisters. Oh damn! They both died and they were cold.
Kensington, Maryland, in 1975. They lived with their parents, John and Mary, as well as their older brother, Jay. On March 25th, 1975, Sheila and Catherine left their home between 11 a.m. and noon. Their mother instructed them to get back home by 4 p.m.
Okay.
They were heading to see the Easter exhibits in the Westfield Wheaton Plaza shopping mall, which was located about half a mile from their home. It was their spring break, so they planned on enjoying a day out, even having lunch at a pizzeria within the mall called the Orange Bowl. By 7 p.m., the Lyon sisters had still not returned home. Their parents then called police to report them missing.
Okay.
The extensive search and investigations for Sheila and Catherine revealed nothing about the location of the girls, but thanks to witness statements, it did help the police set up a timeline that they felt was accurate. At 1 p.m., a neighborhood boy saw the sisters outside the Orange Bowl. They were speaking to an unidentified man. At about 2 p.m., their elder brother...
1975, but there's probably like zero cameras. No, there's probably cameras, I'm just kidding, but like cameras at that time
Jay also noticed them at the pizzeria, alone and enjoying their meal.
Now there's cameras everywhere. You cannot get away with shit.
A friend of theirs then saw the girls walking westward down a street near the mall somewhere between 2:30 and 3 p.m.
Okay.
It was the direct route to their home. Okay. That was the last time Sheila and Catherine Lyon were seen alive.
Damn.
The neighborhood boy who recalled seeing Sheila and Catherine talking to someone outside the Orange Bowl described the unidentified man to be about 6 feet tall, 50 to 60 years old, and wearing a brown suit.
So weird.
He said that the man was carrying a briefcase with a tape recorder inside. The man was demonstrating a type of audio cassette player to the teens and children gathered near him, which included the Lyon sisters. 2 composite sketches of him were created and released to the public, and several other witnesses came forward to declare that they had seen him in the mall that day.
So how does
a girl around Sheila and Catherine's age then talked to the detectives and gave them a completely new possible suspect. She described how the young girls had confronted a man who had been staring so intently at them that it made them uncomfortable enough to act. He was described as a white male, 5 foot 11 inches tall and weighing roughly 140 pounds.
Nah, in my opinion, hey, there's no point in trying to like talk to the person type shit, you know what I'm saying? I know there's creeps gonna stare and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? But like going up to the man and saying shit,
it was
I don't
believed
know.
he was in his late teens
I was just
or
trying to
early
get away from him.
He had acne on his face and scars on his
so
left
going
cheekbone.
up to him type shit,
The man
I don't
wore
know.
a light-colored Peter's jacket, as well as a blue and white
I was just trying
horizontal
to get away
striped
from
shirt
him
with
if
white
I
pants.
see someone creeping on someone,
The Lyon
on
sisters'
me or something, I'm
disappearance
just gonna
shattered
try to
the
get
sense
away.
of security in Kensington, Maryland, rattling
If I was a
parents
kid,
to the point where they
I
no
got too
longer
much of
let
ego,
their
so I would probably depress them as well.
children play outside or walk to Wheaton Plaza.
My ego would
Even
make
with
me
all
press
the
that
promising
fool if you're looking at me
information,
like that.
the case soon got plagued by false leads and questionable subjects, eventually making it go cold. An
That's
18-year-old named Lloyd Lee Welsh went to a security guard at the Wheaton Mall a week after the girls disappeared. He said that he had been at the mall that day and saw the girls get abducted by the tape recorder man. Mall security then called the police, who took Lloyd to a nearby station. When the investigators made Lloyd take a lie detector test, he failed.
So y'all just bullshitting with these two people's lies type shit. I don't know if he's bullshitting. I don't know how lie detectors work type shit. he could be telling the truth and it might be just a lie. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know how lie detectors
Lloyd
work.
then
How accurate are those lie detector tests? Is what I'm trying to get at.
confessed to having made the whole thing up.
Oh,
It was believed he was just interested in the $9,000 reward money being offered,
Bruh.
and he was released.
bruh.
On April 7th,
Look at your
1975, about 2 weeks after the
broke ass outta
disappearance,
here.
a witness in Manassas, Virginia, reported seeing two girls resembling the Lyon sisters
Let me
in
guess.
the
He wanted the 9K
rear
too.
of a beige 1968 Ford station wagon. The witnesses stated that the girls were bound and gagged in the vehicle. The driver of the vehicle resembled the man in the publicly available composite sketch. The witness further claimed that when the driver spotted the witness tailing him, he ran a red light and sped west on Route 234 towards Interstate 66. The station wagon had Maryland license plates with the possible combination of DMT6. The last two numbers are unknown due to the bending of the car's plate. The known combination was issued in Cumberland, Hagerstown, and Baltimore at the time. This supposed sighting inspired a small army of mobile CB radio users to scour the area throughout the night with a running commentary and chatter, but without any tangible results. A search for matching plate numbers failed to produce any information. Although this witness's report was at first treated as credible and a media firestorm erupted because of it, it was later deemed questionable by police. The disappearance granted calls from psychics, extortionists, and attention seekers. Several phone calls from people claiming to be holding the girls for ransom were made to the Lyon family in the immediate aftermath of their disappearance.
Y'all some sick ass people, bro.
One began with an anonymous mail on April 4th, 1975, and demanded that John Lyon leave a briefcase with $10,000 inside an Annapolis courthouse restroom. John Lyon left $101 in the briefcase, as directed by law enforcement officials. It was just enough to make the crime a felony, but the briefcase was never claimed. The same anonymous person called John later and said there were too many police officers around the courthouse and he could not retrieve the ransom. John said he would have to hear the girls' voices before he could do anything else. The caller never made contact again.
Yeah, bro. Clearly playing around, bro. Bro, just trying to get money type shit, bro.
There were suspects, but nothing that linked them to the crime. One being Fred Howard Coffey. Coffey was convicted in 1987 for assaulting and strangling a 10-year-old girl in North Carolina in 1979. Authorities learned...
So 8 years earlier? Damn, that's 10 years old is crazy, bro. Bro, you deserve, bro.
That he interviewed for a
10
job
years old,
and
bro,
was
is
subsequently
disgusting.
employed
I
in
mean,
Silver
everything's disgusting when you're doing sexual assault type shit, but like 10 years old, bro,
Spring,
is
Maryland,
crazy.
6 days after the Lyon sisters vanished. This is a short distance from Wheaton Plaza. Investigators were unable to determine if Coffey was connected to the case, and he was never charged in the disappearances. Raymond Rudolph Molesky Sr., a resident of Suitland, Maryland, at the time of the disappearance, took the lives of both his wife and teenage son in November 1977. He was convicted and sentenced to 40 years in prison. Based on both prison informants' tips and Molesky's own claims to know something about the case, which he offered to share more fully.
My bad, I was just looking at this dude doing his freaking fingerprint, bro. You got on the
claims
line.
to know something about the
You got a
case,
whole ass box.
which he offered to share more fully in exchange for more favorable prison conditions. Authorities searched his former residence in April 1982. No evidence was discovered. Raymond Rudolph Molesky passed away in prison in 2004. Police interviewed countless witnesses and followed hundreds of tips. Every stand of woods or weeds were searched. Storm sewers were explored,
So how does this
as was
case
every
go from
vacant
cold case to how
house
does
for
this shit get
miles.
solved?
The residents of a nearby nursing home were
I
interviewed
love
one
people
by
getting
one.
justice.
Scuba divers
Especially
groped
for
through
getting-
mud at the bottom
for
of
murder.
ponds. Nothing was found. Nothing
Senseless
came of
murder.
anything the police did. The case haunted the Montgomery County Police Department. Generations of detectives had come and gone, and many had taken a crack at it. Periodically, a new team would start over, combing through the many boxes of yellowing evidence, hoping to find something missed. In 2012, the Montgomery County Police Department decided to make
when did this shit happen? 1975 or 1970 something? So 25, 30 some years?
Final push to solve the Lyon sisters' mystery. Their approach was to act as if a call had just come in for the two missing girls and to scour the boxes of case records as if starting from scratch. One of the most intriguing finds early on was a brief report written by investigators a week after the disappearances. The report was about 18-year-old Lloyd Lee Welsh that falsely claimed to see the tape recorder man abduct the sisters. The detectives newly plowing the case learned that Lloyd Welsh went on to compile an extensive criminal record. His record includes an arrest in 1977 in Montgomery County for breaking into a house 8 blocks from Wheaton Plaza Mall and stealing $580 worth of jewelry. The burglary case yielded a mugshot, which bore a striking resemblance to a composite sketch drawn in 1975 of the man at the mall,
kind of not accurate, but he got his hair back,
who stared at the Lyon girls so long that they confronted him.
He looked like him.
The newly assigned detectives learned Welsh was imprisoned in Delaware after being convicted of assaulting a 10-year-old girl in that state in 1998. Detectives drove to see him, not sure what to expect. Would he even want to talk to them? It turns out he did. Welsh talked and talked for 8 hours.
Damn.
It was on October 16th, 2013, that Detective Dave Davis traveled with Montgomery Deputy State's Attorney Pete Feeney to Dover, Delaware to interview Welsh. He acknowledged he was at the mall the day the Lyon sisters were reported missing, but said he had no involvement in their disappearance.
Sure.
The investigators continued trying to uncover as much as they could about Welsh. They learned that his mother lost her life when the car driven by his drunken father, Lee, crashed. Lloyd Welsh was a passenger. He was placed in foster homes, but ran away to live on the streets instead, where he did whatever he wanted to. As an adult, he traveled around the country, sometimes hitchhiking, and at one point started a landscaping business in South Carolina. In that state, he was also convicted of assaulting a 10-year-old, just like in Delaware. As the detectives gathered Welsh's history, they repeatedly returned to interview him in Delaware. In subsequent interviews, Welsh lied elaborately and repeatedly about his connection to the Lyon case. He eventually admitted that he had helped kidnap the girls, but insisted that the crime had been planned and carried out by others in his family. He would talk for hours.
Bro just threw his family on the bus, like, bro, how did that make it okay? So you helped kidnap someone, and you think that's okay? That's
shifting
better?
his story and offering
that's just as worse. If you planning it with someone, bro, you just as guilty.
He said he had seen abduct the Lyon girls.
You had nothing. You didn't see nothing wrong with the plan. You know what I'm saying? You didn't see nothing wrong with the kidnapping. So you helped. So I don't know what.
In the summer of 2014,
he just helped
investigators began an extensive probe of the entire Welsh clan. What the detectives found shocked them. The clan had 2 branches, one in Hyattsville, Maryland, and the other 5 hours southwest on a secluded hilltop in Thaxton, Virginia. It was a place locals called Taylor's Mountain. Here, the family's Appalachian roots were still in existence, even though some members had gradually moved into more modern communities in and around Bedford, the nearest town. The family's mountain hollow ways, a suspicion of outsiders, an unruly contempt for authority of any kind, stubborn poverty, a knee-jerk resort to violence, set it perpetually at odds with mainstream suburbia. During one of the interviews, Welsh named relatives he had seen abuse and take the lives of at least one of the Lyon girls. If the sisters had been taken by this family, as Welsh claimed and the detectives now suspected, then someone in the family might help investigators with more information. In 2015, Welsh was claiming that the chief culprit had been his Uncle Richard, who he said had planned the girl's kidnapping and demise.
Richard is a weird-ass family to begin with. From top to the bottom. Like
Welsh was nearly 70 at the time, but seemed older. In addition to heart trouble, he faced a frightening array of accusations. Various family members had accused him of ugly and violent behavior toward them in the past. Richard Welsh denied it all. He was summoned to appear before a grand jury in February 2015, where he still stuck to his story. He said he never saw either of the Lyons sisters and did not know what happened to them.
Line.
On May 12, 2015, detectives visited Lloyd Welsh again to see if he could tell them anything else. He continued spinning one story after the next to explain what had happened to Sheila and Catherine, always placing the blame for the crime on others.
Yep.
Gradually, and often inadvertently, he revealed more and more about himself and the crime. The detectives came to realize that you had to forget the narrative. The way to read Welsh was to look past his stories to their details. Running through many of his versions were certain particulars that recurred: stalking girls in the mall, a station wagon, a crying girl in the back seat, a basement accessed from the backyard, an axe, an army green duffel bag, and a bonfire. On a Monday in May 2015, Detective Dave Davis went looking for the place where Welsh said his Uncle Richard had taken Catherine's life, before stuffing her remains in a duffel bag and ordering him to take it to Taylor's Mountain.
What?
Uncle Richard's old house had been completely destroyed to make room for a new district court building, but Dave knew where it had been. Right away, Welsh's story didn't add up. The house was the last place you would bring two little girls who were the object of a massive manhunt. The house was right next to police headquarters. Dave next sought out Buchanan Street, which Lloyd Welsh had also mentioned and where members of the Welsh family had once lived. When Dave arrived there, he recognized the house from snapshots in the police file. It was the house where Lloyd Welsh's parents had lived. The current owners of the house led Dave to a basement, only accessed by walking around the house to the rear. Dave stepped into a dark, low-ceilinged stone dungeon heaped with old furniture. This was the place. He knew it. It was
I was gonna say because of the basement type shit, but like, what?
Exactly where one would stash two frightened young girls.
Makes sense.
You could do anything without being seen or heard.
That's crazy.
Dave returned the next day with a forensics team. They squirted Blue Star spray to try and find any blood. It lit up from the floor to the ceiling. The room announced itself as the place where Sheila and Catherine Lyon, or at least one of them, spent their last moments. Welsh often talked about his Uncle Richard's sanctuary, but that was all untrue. This was the space where Lloyd Welsh hung out. It was his.
That's what I'm saying, like, bro.
Not long after Dave Davis found the likely crime scene, the case against Lloyd Welsh was solid enough to charge him. On September 12th...
That's him? Hey, bro. Bro got
of 2017, he pleaded guilty to ending the lives of both Sheila and Catherine Lyon. Despite pleading guilty, he still claimed that his involvement was in fact very limited. He was given a 48-year sentence, and given that he was 60 years old in 2017, it was essentially a life sentence.
Why didn't y'all just save life then? Why the hell did y'all even give that man 40 years? You should have got a life to begin with.
Frustratingly, Lloyd Welsh still refuses to tell investigators where they can find the bodies. Investigators are still looking into the
lock that boy up for real quick. Like,
possibility
put that boy in a cage with someone violent in that prison type shit. Hey, he did something crazy to kids, bro. I know that's a crime that looked down upon type shit.
Welsh did not act alone. Uncle Richard worked as a mall cop around the same time, and it would have been much easier for him to abduct the two girls than it would be for Lloyd Welsh. Let me know what you make of the case down in the comments section.
At least they got some sort of justice, but I don't know, it's been way too long.
Roger Scott Dunn was born on February 10th, 1967 in Lubbock. Roger Scott Dunn was born on February 10th, 1967 in Lubbock, Texas, one of two sons born to Jim and Mary Sue Dunn. Everyone referred to him as Scott. Scott was described as a jokester, fun-loving, and as a ladies' man. By 1991, the 24-year-old left the military and settled in Lubbock. He worked at MGM Electronics, where he installed custom sound systems in vehicles. He loved working on cars, and he had even won stereo installation competitions. He also bought, restored, and resold used automobiles on his own. Scott dated Leisha Hamilton. She was a 28-year-old waitress.
Okay.
On the evening of May 13th, 1991, Scott attended a party at one of his friends' homes. Out of nowhere, Scott got seriously ill. He couldn't walk or drive home and slept at his friend's house. The next morning, Leisha came to pick him up so that he could rest in the comfort of his own bed at the apartment they shared at Oakwood Club Apartments at 5818 24th Street. The day after that, on May 15th, Scott was finally feeling well enough to get back to his work.
Okay.
His car was still at his friend's house, so he arranged for his friends to take him to work.
Okay.
He told Leisha about this arrangement. She made him tea and left for work. When his friends arrived at their apartment, Scott didn't answer. Leisha arrived home later and told his friends that he must have left while she was at work. Scott did not come home that night, and for the next 2 days, there was absolutely no sign of him. Leisha then contacted Jim Dunn, Scott's dad, who lived in Pennsylvania, and told them that Scott disappeared. Jim Dunn then contacted the Lubbock Police Department to file a missing persons report. Jim told detectives that it was unusual for Scott to leave his Camaro, nicknamed the Yellow Submarine, and his tools at work. When the police arrived at Leisha and Scott's apartment, Leisha immediately told the police that a piece of carpet was missing from underneath the couch. In Scott's bedroom, the police found that missing piece of carpet. It had been duct taped together with the carpet in the bedroom. A piece of carpet had been removed from the bedroom. Along the seam, the police noticed a rusty-colored stain. It was clear that it was blood. There was another large stain on the padding underneath the carpet in one section. The blood on the padding had seeped down to the concrete below. It also looked like someone had cleaned blood off of the baseboard of the wall. The investigators used luminol to test the room. The room lit up. It was obvious that someone, presumably Scott, had suffered a violent attack. Investigators looked at Scott's life and the people he knew to see if anything stood out to them. Scott had a previous arrest for using illegal substances. At age 23, he was arrested in connection with a Domino's Pizza robbery. The police followed up on this to see if anyone might have had reasons to hurt Scott because of the substances or money. They didn't find anything useful. Looking at Scott's relationship with Leisha, investigators found a lot of oddities. It seemed that Scott wasn't able to commit to Leisha as much as she would have liked.
Hey, don't tell me she set him up or some shit. I wouldn't put it past him too either. Like, I wouldn't hey, your roommate's
1 month before Scott's disappearance, Leisha had learned
lie.
that Scott was engaged to another woman. Investigators saw...
Hey, yo, what the fuck? Where was that? What the hell was that? You gotta be kidding me.
Investigators continued looking into the possibility that she was responsible if anything stood out to them. Scott had a previous arrest for using illegal substances. At age 23, he arrived at Leisha and...
What the fuck? Why
a piece of carpet had been removed.
Bro.
The room new using it with a Domino's Pizza robbery. The police followed up on this to see if anyone might have had reasons to hurt Scott because of the substances or money. they didn't find anything useful. Looking at Scott's relationship with
That's what all
Leisha,
that.
investigators
I thought
found
they
a lot of
restarted.
oddities. It seemed that Scott wasn't able to commit to Leisha as much as she would have liked. 1 month before Scott's disappearance, Leisha had learned that Scott was engaged to another
See,
woman.
that's why I wanted to re-listen to. Like, I heard engagement or some shit like that. I don't damn. So that boy Roger got engaged with someone else. She got jealous. She set my boy up. Like, bro,
Investigators saw this as a possible motive.
that's
Could
a
Leisha
real
have
motive.
seek revenge against Scott?
That's a motive.
Scott's friends
I'm not
told
gonna say she
investigators
did it or something, but that's motive.
there's something worrisome about Leisha. A family friend of Scott said that Scott was afraid to break up with Leisha.
She's
Leisha's
crazy
ex-boyfriends
motherfucker.
warned Scott that she could lather herself up into violent, jealous rages.
She jealous.
Leisha continued to contact
crazy.
Jim to talk about the
I would
case.
not see her to be that type of person. That smile is like
Jim
she's a
taped
nice
all
person,
of their
but
phone
she's
calls.
crazy.
For some reason, Leisha didn't really seem that interested in finding Scott. She often talked
I mean,
about his sport.
her first instinct was to call her dad instead of call when someone goes missing type shit, bro. I understand, like, I would call the dad too, like, have you seen your son type shit? But then I would, as soon as he said no, I would call the cops type shit.
sports car.
But she had
She
the
even
dad call
asked
the
Jim
cops.
if she could have it. Leisha told Jim that she didn't want the car but needed it. Leisha was clearly getting impatient about having to wait for the car. This was really odd behavior. Investigators learned that Leisha had a criminal record. She had been arrested in New Mexico for embezzlement. Investigators continued looking into the possibility that she was responsible, but then she actually came up with the first suspect. Leisha told Jim that she believed a man named Tim Smith was involved in Scott's disappearance. Tim lived near Scott and Leisha and became infatuated with her. The police went to speak to Tim at his apartment and saw that he was packing up to move. Tim willingly let the police search his apartment. When the police walked back out to the room where Tim was standing, they discovered that Tim had moved a roll of duct tape that was on
Rookie mistake. If they don't got a warrant, bro, I watch too many crime shows type shit. If they don't got a warrant, bro, I don't care if you're if you're innocent, then you could let them. But if you did some, you might as well just wait until they get warrant. Cause at that point, bro, even if you act like you didn't do shit, like, bro, they about to find some shit.
They let the police search his apartment. When the police walked back out to the room where Tim was standing, they discovered that Tim had
Duct tape.
moved a roll of duct tape that was on his bookshelf. Tim claimed he didn't move anything, but the police found it hidden behind some books. The tape was sent in for forensic testing. Using infrared lights to look at different wavelengths and components of the tape, the results were that the tape from Tim's apartment were consistent with the tape used on the carpet in Scott's bedroom.
That's what I'm saying, bro. If you're guilty, you should not let them go to your apartment type shit. You better lawyer up type shit, bro. But
On the side of the
If you're
tape,
innocent,
triangular green carpet fibers were found, which were the same color as the carpet in Scott's bedroom. Unfortunately, without a body, there wasn't much else investigators could do, and the case went cold.
damn.
Jim got impatient and set out to find answers himself. He met with a group called the Vidocq Society. It's a group of 82 international forensic experts. The group is a members-only group that meets in Philadelphia to try to solve unsolved crimes. Jim met with Richard Walter, a co-founder of the group, to go over the case of his son. Richard immediately confirmed that Scott is not alive anymore. Furthermore, he was convinced that Leisha held the answers. Richard sent the information to Dr. Richard Shepard of New Scotland Yard. Dr. Shepard concluded that Scott's life was taken in his bedroom and had been struck multiple times with a blunt object. He conducted multiple tests and confirmed that with the amount of blood that was lost, no one could have survived. Richard Walter begged the district attorney to take this case to trial. Richard said that they didn't have a body, but had a body part, the blood's connective tissue. Richard Walter noticed that there were unidentified hairs in the duct tape found in Scott's bedroom. It was sent in for testing and was determined to be hair from both Tim Smith and Leisha Hamilton. Smith and Hamilton were finally arrested 3 years after Scott disappeared in 1994. It is believed that Scott's life was taken in the early morning hours of May 16, 1991, while he was asleep. Scott was struck 4 times with a blunt object. Hamilton and Smith tried to clean up the scene, but obviously left behind too much evidence. It is believed that Leisha wanted revenge after finding out that Scott had been seeing other women and was engaged.
Jealous, bro.
Smith probably helped Hamilton because she manipulated him and he was obsessed with her.
That was motive
They were tried separately and both convicted. Leisha Hamilton was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and Smith was sentenced to 10 years of probation.
That's it.
The jury believed that Smith was involved in helping Hamilton clean up and get rid of evidence, but weren't convinced that he was in the room when the crime took place.
Wow.
It's not clear why Leisha got such a short sentence, in Texas no less, but she had to serve it in full after losing multiple bids for parole. Leisha dropped out of sight once she got out of prison. Frustratingly, neither Hamilton nor Smith wanted to tell police where they put Scott's body. There was much relief in 2012 when Lubbock Victims Assistance Services got word to Jim Dunn that a work crew had uncovered skeletal remains in a sewage system near Scott's apartment complex. Dental records confirmed they came from Scott. On June 16, 2012, the Dunns buried him in a grave beneath a stone engraved with a likeness of Scott's Camaro. Jim was quoted as saying, "I tell everyone that Scott came home for Father's Day."
Alright, that's enough for that video. If you enjoyed that, subscribe and like Road 2K. That's crazy. But hey, man, that's wild. But we out, man. Road 2K. That's crazy.